John, many thanks for joining us. Let's talk technology and GDPR and artificial intelligence in particular, which I know is a strong passion of yours. GDPR was intended to sort of revolutionise data privacy and to make it fit for today's consumer economy and technology in particular. How is that happening in your perspective?
That's a really good question, Will. And I think from a personal perspective, the GDPR has some really laudable goals, and I think what it's trying to do in relation to preserving the rights of the data subject over large corporations is excellent from the standpoint of the individual. It's really driving those rights within the European Union, but it's coming up against a bit of a roadblock when it hits artificial intelligence. And if I can kind of explain where my thinking is on this, let's roll back a bit and explain what artificial intelligence means, because people have a kind of conflated view of artificial intelligence which doesn't necessarily fit with reality. And I like to think about a kind of circular diagram with artificial intelligence as the umbrella, and within that you've got what I call machine learning, which is a black box type of artificial intelligence, things like neural networks and deep neural networks. And it's these areas which have particular concerns for the GDPR, because they are a black box. Scientifically, we can build these machine learning systems, we can get them to work, but in any given instance, in any given scenario, the scientists that have built it would not know how or why the system's come to the decision it's come to. And that's the problem when you're applying GDPR. GDPR assumes that all technology is white box. It's not necessarily the case. Machine learning solutions are inherently black box.
An unknown in the middle, is what you're saying.
Absolutely right. And when you kind of extrapolate across the quite laudable principles within the GDPR, such as purpose minimization, it's clear, and privacy by design, it's clear that what the legislators had in mind was a very stratified approach to technology, which is very, very conventional.
So is notification one of the answers then? How do we sort of get through this?
Well, again, I mean, notification is possibly an answer, but notification has its own issues, and you've heard all about privacy information notices, and again we're kind of running up into the black box situation. But my response to that would be, if as a data scientist you can't predict how or why the system is going to behave in a particular instance, and scientifically we can't do that yet, how are you going to explain to the man in the street the logic involved in the decision-making process, which is what you have to do in a privacy information notice?
I guess that's another difficult angle of GDPR, because it really tries to ensure that things to do with a person's privacy are explained in simple language and plain, easy terms. So what we're saying is that's really going to be a challenge from an AI perspective in particular, because...
Well, that's a real tautology, because as the Article 29 Working Party is saying that not only do you need to give them meaningful information, it needs to be clear and concise. And I think that's frankly a really tall order when it comes to particularly machine learning and black box artificial intelligence systems.
So is this a case, I guess, of technologies evolving, the world of AI is evolving, the world of GDPR needs to evolve at the same time in terms of how we interpret and regulate it?
I think that's absolutely right, yes. And I think we're in this peculiar hiatus period at the moment where businesses are trying to catch up to develop technologies which will provide that verifiability for machine learning. I won't go into too much detail, but there are companies in Silicon Valley that are trying to develop framework systems that will provide that explainability factor that the GDPR needs so desperately. But at the moment, we don't have that technology. We simply don't have that technology.
Right, so watch this space, I guess, is the outcome. But that's been really interesting, John. Thank you ever so much for that, and I hope that's given the viewers some interesting insights into the world of technology and AI in particular.
Thanks very much, Will.
Thank you, John.